Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Strangers Worth Meeting. I'm your host, Tyler, on the road, as always, here today in Austin, Texas, hanging out with Archie Montemayor, who is a pro paintballer on the San Antonio X Factor, which is a brand new concept to me. So I'm real excited to talk with him about that, about the world of paintball. And we're hanging out today in his apartment in Austin, along with his dog Quigley, who you may hear from time to time, very cute French bulldog who was upset when we kind of locked him away. So we had to bring him back out to be a part of the podcast. So Archie, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
No, thanks for having me on. Interesting concept. I'm kind of excited. I haven't done a non-paintball podcast, so yeah, it should be fun.
Yeah, so I see that, I've seen from your Instagram that paintball is a huge part of your life.
Yeah.
It's something that you do. I know you guys practice on the weekends, and then you have events all around the world for this. And so I want to kind of know a little bit more about that world. And I'm glad to be, like you mentioned, I'm the first non-paintball podcast that you've been on, which that's exciting to me. That's pretty fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's definitely a big part of my life. I mean, my Instagram account is mostly paintball stuff, right? And honestly, that's because I'm kind of an introvert a little bit. I like my private life to be private, but that's kind of it is a way I make money, and that's how people relate to me. Obviously I have a lot of paintball sponsors that are, they want me to be kind of doing that kind of stuff. So I wouldn't call it a double life, but that's a window into, what I compete in or whatever.
Right.
And then outside of that, it's, there's not a whole lot. But anyways, yeah, I mean, I love paintball. I've been doing it for like 21 years or something. I think 99 is when I started. It was just, at that point in time, I would have never guessed it would be what it is for me now. But the last, 8 or 9 years has been just crazy. And I've been traveling just, a ton. So obviously, I'm sure you're well aware it's pretty fulfilling when you can get around the globe. And yeah, I would just say
it's a big theme of the show, I'd say.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So, and I was telling you a second ago, yeah, even I like to we have a Westphalia that I take out often. I think last year I went on 6 or 7 trips. So, it's paintball's shown me a lot, and not just actual paintball itself, but everything involved with it, the traveling, the people, the politics, all that stuff. So, it's been a really, really good teacher, and, it's been just I don't know, to me, it's like one of the favorite things I've ever kind of learned how to do.
Right. So fill me in on some background. I did my best. I always try to do some research about my guests, but what's cool is that everybody has a different background and a different whole skill set that I get to learn about.
Yeah.
Sometimes actually learn about, like when I went and did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Like that was one of those times where I get to get my hands dirty, which is fun. But with paintball, so I have been paintballing. I went as a teenager, but it was very different from the kind that you guys do, because you're playing speedball, right? Which is 7 guys.
So there used to be a 7-man league. Right now we play like the Premier League is 5-man, right? 5 on 5. But they also have 10-man tournaments as well, which I actually play those tournaments too. So.
Okay, so you're in an arena, you start on opposite sides. Mm-hmm. There's the blow up sort of obstacles set up in a different pattern depending on where you're playing. I was watching some of the videos, and I couldn't tell if it was entirely elimination based or if there's some component of a flag.
So there's like a buzzer on each end. So it's kind of like the easy way to describe it is kind of like hockey, right? So you get to their end, you hit that thing, that's a point, right? And so we're playing for a time, a fixed amount of time, and whatever team has the most points at the end of that time wins.
Got it. So points would be hitting that button, but probably also like eliminating.
Yes, correct. But you usually, most of the time, you're shooting everybody and then hitting the button.
Sure.
Right. So
clear the field.
Yeah.
Make way. And
Every once in a while, it'll turn out to be a one-on-one, and the field are kind of flipped with somebody, and it might be a race to the buzzer, but that doesn't happen that often.
What's a typical length for like a match then?
I think it's like 16 minutes of game time, and then in between points. So the way they do the format now is it's 4 teams playing at once, which is super confusing, especially for somebody that doesn't follow paintball, right? So you've got 2 teams playing. They play a point. In between the points, the other 2 teams play each other.
So we get rest and strategy time,
exactly,
and it's like our time.
Now, it's short, though. We're talking about a couple of minute break in between
Yeah.
each points, because the points just don't last that long.
Yeah. Sounds really physical, and it looked really physical. You're sprinting, diving, crawling on the ground. Is there a position that you play on that team that is consistent?
I play everywhere. Right?
Okay.
Now, in the paintball world, that's not that common.
Okay.
Right? So most guys are like what we call as positions as snake side of the field and a Dorito side of the field. Usually you're a specialty player, and then there's outside of that there's like back guys, right? But I play everywhere, and that's really because I have enough experience to play everywhere, and I'm fit enough to play every single point. So if somebody needs a break somewhere or whatever, and then also Ryan, my coach,
your coach,
our coach, and he's a really good friend of mine, but he also has faith in me to go wherever we need, somebody strong, right? So if maybe one of our guys isn't having a great day or whatever, great match, then, he'll plug and play me there, right? Or, it's kind of one of those things where if you're guessing where I'm going, then it might leave a window open for something else, right?
Right, makes sense. Okay, so you want to kind of mix it up so that the other team doesn't know what to expect each time. So this was brand new to me. I mean, the version of paintball that I got to do as a kid was you're like deep in the woods somewhere and you're starting way far away from each other, and there's all sorts of like obstacles, like different playgrounds and old things that they'll leave in the woods like that, but obviously just trees everywhere.
Yeah, so that's how it started for me.
Different.
Yeah, that's how it started for me too. And what that's called is we call it a rec ball, right? Recreational paintball. And I still go play like that all the time. And when I do that, I'll wear jeans and a t-shirt. I don't want anybody knowing who I am because, then it's kind of a little bit more of a thing. But
I think they're going to figure it out by the way you play.
they do. But still, I don't want to go because it'll be intimidating for people,
right.
And when I'm out there doing that, I'm not even really shooting my gun very much at all, right? It's just, I'm just kind of having fun.
Is there an element of you put the paintball mask on and you get to just kind of be a normal person again? You get to kind of take off that champion feel?
Well, I mean, when I'm out there playing rec ball, that is totally for me unplugging from what it is in a tournament scenario, right? Like tournaments for me, I mean, I just got back from a tournament in Vegas this past weekend, and they're just incredibly stressful. As involved as I am with my team, I obviously I play on the team and I'm one of the on-field leaders of the team, but off the field, me and the coach are constantly coming up with stuff, ideas, thoughts on ways to better the team, ways to help our, improve everybody on the team as individuals. And it's a mind melt, it's exhausting, it's frustrating, it's taxing on your body. I'm still pretty sore from this weekend. But yeah, it's definitely not there's no escape for me in a tournament. When I get home, I'm like, all right, glad that weekend's over, but still I love to compete, and I love that aspect of it's a will of wits, it's just the hardest. Competing at the highest level of paintball is the hardest thing I've ever had to try to do. And most often than not, you don't win tournaments. There's 20 teams fighting for one first place trophy each event. But the kind of that journey and all that hard work and stuff, I appreciate all that stuff. But at the same time, when it's over, I'm kind of ready to relax a little bit, take a break.
Right. It's fun on my drive out here because I came up from San Antonio, which I was going to ask you, by the way, would you consider yourself an Austinite or a San Antonio?
I was born and raised here in Austin. So yeah, so our team and our field, the owner of the team is from San Antonio. Our field is just outside of San Antonio in Shirts, and that's where we practice, But no, I'm definitely an Austinite.
Okay, cool. I was curious because every episode I put out, I'll put where the person's from. And I was is there a slash? I don't know.
Yeah, no, although in maybe 10 years it'll probably be connected all the way through. But
this area's growing like crazy.
It's insane. Yeah, obviously since I was born here, and I've as an adult I've been here my entire life, but the last 10 to 15 years are just insane. I kind of grew up in a smaller town just outside of Austin, and now it's just all connected, and I can't even remember what the town used to. I remember the old country roads we used to ride on. They just don't even exist anymore.
Yeah, crazy in your lifetime that it happens that fast.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay, but to my actual point, so I was listening to another podcast you were on, a paintball podcast, on my drive up here that you had sent me, and so because I was trying to familiarize myself with the language and your background and kind of how the dynamic works, and I noticed that you have a leadership role on the team, and I wasn't sure if it's in an official capacity or unofficial, but it seems like you've kind of been there since the start and really had a strong hand, even in kind of Ryan, the coach. It seemed like you were a part of when he actually came on. Yeah,
that is true. Ryan used to play on the team, right? So in an official capacity, I don't have a title, if you will, but nobody thinks of X Factor and doesn't like think about me being.
You're a legitimate celebrity in the world too, from what I can tell.
In the paintball world, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, like it, and I feel like that's so different. So when you go to like a paintball event, like you are known. But is your face known? Because you have a mask on.
No. Yeah, absolutely.
So your face is known. And then one of the pictures I really liked on your Instagram was like, there were a ton of trophies just all over around you.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is a guy I got to talk to if I want to talk to a paintball.
Yeah. So that was all from last year. We had a really great year. The best year our team has ever had, for sure. But yeah, in the paintball world, I mean, I would say all of my teammates are all celebrities, right? It's just kind of one of those, like I would probably relate it to like maybe skateboarding in the 80s, right? Before it really blew up. But
Sure.
if you're into paintball, like you pretty much know who we are,
Yeah.
right? But outside of that, like, you know, I mean, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I'll be here in the city, and actually like a couple of weeks ago, I went to this really dope restaurant downtown, like high-end restaurant. And I sit down and the guy's like, hey, what's up, Archie? And I thought he knew my name because I had a reservation. And he's like, yeah, so I go out to the field all the time. I'm like, oh my God. It happens, just not that often.
Yeah.
But that was a next level experience because he just kept everything coming. It was pretty funny.
Does that bug you as an introvert? Like, is that
No,
hard?
not at all. If I didn't, like, I'm smart enough to understand that, like, sometimes cool things like that will happen. And it can, I mean, if I was an asshole about it, it would probably just suck, you know?
Yeah.
But
I've never really understood the point of being mean about that.
Yeah. No way. That totally upgraded the whole night.
Yeah.
It was funny.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Well, you know, I was curious kind of about the other things that you have that go on. I know you were talking about like a workspace area that you're involved with and a couple other things.
Yeah.
And so with the time outside of paintball, what do you get up to?
So I wouldn't say that I work full time, but I do have a day job, if you will, that I pretty much go to if I'm home. I'm pretty much there for at least a handful of hours a day. And so basically, so I'm involved with a group of partners, 3 other partners, and we own some commercial space here in Austin, right? And at first, it started out as so my dad's one of the other partners, and then he's got a couple other business partners as well. But they own an accounting firm together. And before kind of paintball took off for me, I was working a lot there. Kind of as business management and some IT stuff for them. And we decided to buy some space so we weren't renting space anymore, right? So we bought this property and it was a good deal at the time. So we bought extra space that we ended up, you know, leasing out to a bunch of other tenants. And that just kind of snowballed a little bit. We bought a little bit more space since then, and then more recently, what I'm doing is I'm in one of our spaces is I've got a co-working space. Which are you familiar with that kind of idea, like WeWork or
yes,
Industrious?
I have used one co-working space for a podcast episode.
Okay, yeah.
And I wish they were more prevalent because sometimes it's hard when I get into town and I'm like, hey, let's do a podcast. But especially if I have like a female guest or something, I can't just be like, I'm going to come to your house. It's just different. And it's much nicer if I can be like, so usually I'll use like library rooms. That's kind of an easy way.
Okay,
But shared workspaces are just awesome.
Yeah, so that's the most recent project. But I know right now we are trying to identify another good kind of piece of property to buy. I think right now is a great opportunity. I mean, Austin in general is just booming. It's been booming. I mean, I will say that that first piece of property that we bought 6 years ago, it's insane how much that one's just blown up for us. So, you know, Austin's priced high right now, but at least for commercial space, like the demand here is insane.
Yeah. Austin, where as we're recording this episode, South by Southwest was canceled for the first time in 34 years or something like that. A huge hit. I was actually, so Andrew and I are going to a concert on Sunday, like one of her favorite bands ever, Keen.
Wow, I didn't know they were here. Yeah, okay, yeah.
They're at Emo's, and so we're going to go see their concert, and she's really excited about it, and I was like, I hope they don't cancel.
Yeah, so I went to Post Malone a couple nights ago at Frank Erwin.
I saw you had gone, yeah.
And that was awesome, but even that one, we were kind of wondering if it was going to get canceled or not. And then today, there's a show, it's some big country artist, which I'm not, really into, but they canceled that show today. Yeah. So Frank Erwin at this point in time, which is the big kind of concert arena here downtown, is canceling everything. So I mean, I don't know how that's going to affect this weekend, but Obviously, Frank Irwin's a huge arena versus what do you say, Stubbs or?
It's emos.
Oh, Emos, yeah. So Emos is right across the street, actually.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's walking distance. So
Cool.
that one's obviously it's not huge, so that may or may not still happen. But
Right.
but yeah, the Corona thing is definitely prevalent right now.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I think people are probably talking about it way more than the scale of what the actual problem is. But even you and I just were coming up, getting set up, we were chatting about it, and I thought it was cool because you talked about that your viewpoint kind of on health is just a little bit different from everybody else. And I always feel like that. I feel like a total outsider. I really don't share a lot of it. I just feel too weird. I don't want to make like I don't want to be a super out there about my opinions about health, but I lean way natural. And part of that is that, so Andrew and I, our marketing company, we work with health and wellness professionals. So we've been in that world for a long time. Like I've been slowly learning more and more. We used to work with some chiropractors and things like that, and midwives. And so like I have a pretty good sense of how that works, and then just went further and further. Where does that come from you? Is your family like that, or is that something you kind of found on your own?
No. Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to say like I'm a rebel, but I've always just asked a lot of questions, been really curious my entire life. I actually went to a private Catholic school as a kid, and now I would say I'm probably agnostic, just for lack of a better word. But I mean, I went to church every single day.
It's so funny to me that what you just said could nearly apply.
Yeah.
Nearly to me.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't a Catholic school.
Well, yeah. So I mean, and
grew up in church.
You
grow up.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's part of the curriculum.
My grandparents, they go every single day still.
Yeah.
You know, my mom, my sisters, they go every weekend. I mean, it's a thing. And obviously, I know to kind of tread lightly on that subject at home.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, ever since I was like 11 or 12, I remember I was in school essentially, and kind of just thinking in my head like, man, I don't know if I'm really resonating with this at all. And so I just started essentially just asking questions, right? I think that's honestly what kind of got me to the level I'm at with paintball, is just asking a lot of questions that people are either afraid to ask or just don't want, just don't think to ask. But and yeah, it's tough to talk about this kind of stuff with a lot of people because most people are just offended. I mean, when you're told something your entire life and that comes into question, people don't, it's like it's just a defense mechanism to defend the way they were brought up,
it's,
right?
I literally, it's so funny. I was listening to this book called Homo Deus, which is the same, if you heard of the book Sapiens.
Mm-hmm. So one of my friends told me about this book. I don't read a ton, but I mean, this is a book that one of my friends told me to read.
Yeah. So I listened to Sapiens. I liked it. It's a good, like, history of humans, but then Homo Deus is like, where are we going?
Okay.
It's like looking ahead, and that's pretty cool. And he talks about the idea of like there's subjectivity, there's objectivity, and then there's shared subjectivity, which is almost as humans on the same level as objectivity, which is why we can offend somebody if our viewpoint doesn't match up with that sort of shared opinion. And you're right. I mean, if you're someone who questions things and is willing to do your own research on a lot of things, then you're going to find yourself far outside of that shared subjectivity.
Big time. But that being said, I'm not a real a confrontational person either. So whatever.
Just like everybody can do what they want to do.
Exactly right.
I don't care.
If somebody's happy, by all means, you know what I mean. And like my oldest sister, for example, heavily involved with the church. Her husband is very, very involved. His family's involved with the church. And that being said, like, as soon as she met him, like, I can absolutely say that's been the best thing that's ever happened.
Right, for sure.
You know what I mean? And so for that, I'm grateful for him, happy for her, totally stoked about that situation, you know what I mean? But I would not, live my life the way they do,
right. And it's the same thing when you look at health. It's I'm not necessarily going to spend my life slathering myself with Purell because I recognize that, like, there's nothing to support that would actually help me.
Yeah.
Like, that's not the way to do this. What is your kind of approach? Are you like into the proactive side of health where you're like,
no,
you eat and work out and things to like keep yourself?
I mean, I work out obviously, but I do that not for, well, I mean, there's a whole host of reasons why I work out, but,
it's part of the job.
Yeah. It's part of my job. I realize that those, working out feels good, right? I mean, aesthetic, you want to look, I mean, I want to look decent, right? I mean, I'm not saying I'm ripped, but
you live in Austin. It's a sexy city.
Yeah.
You got to fit
absolutely, definitely. There's tons of really good
in
looking people in town. Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to get recognized at a restaurant, a swanky restaurant, you got to look the part. But then is there an element of that like, because for me, working out is like a whole mental health component.
Yeah.
It's like to stay happy and not get depressed. And
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, at times I don't view it that way, but like at the same time, like as far as like mental health, the things that I do that I think are really great for mental health might be a lot different than what other people do. You know, like for me, I like driving, you know, like alone, you know, just, and I know I mean, I've got friends that are on the team that are from Austin, and we have practice, and sometimes I'm like, hey, I'm driving alone.
Right.
And they're like, man, you know, I'm completely weird, you know, and I'm just like, you know, I know I'm weird, but
it's like a meditation.
Yeah. For me, it's just, I get a lot of clarity without any distractions, you know, like, and granted, this is on like a Saturday morning when there's no traffic, right? So that's a good hour of pretty much just mindless meditation I get, and I get to think about what I'm going to do that day. It just kind of, I get to gather my thoughts, and I really enjoy it. And then on top of that, the ride back is I get to rehearse and think about what happened throughout the day, and if I would change things about it, you know, if I'd have seen something else, what would I have done, right? So yeah, like I wouldn't say that working out is a meditative thing for me. I feel like whenever I'm in there, I'm like there to just get my groove on, but I meditate in a lot of other ways, right?
Yeah. Well, I think I get the same thing from like riding a motorcycle.
Oh yeah.
It's sort of a classic way of doing it. And I deep dove on your Instagram and saw you played around with a calf racer at one point.
Yeah, I still have it. I just don't ride. I haven't ridden in over a year, but yeah, it's fun. I think I live in the city, and I like out in the hill country is ideally where I'd like to ride.
Yeah,
but
that's some good riding out there.
Yeah, it's nice. But I'm just kind of caught up living downtown, working downtown. I'm gone all the time, and I've got my dog, and also like, you know, I don't want to say it's dangerous, but you know, sometimes I have that. It's a thought in my mind, you know, like
it's not the best commuting tool.
Yeah.
The statistics start to stack up against you if you're going to go commuting every day on it.
For sure.
As opposed to like if you're enjoying like hill country out just like at Enchanted Rock or something like that, just hanging out.
Yeah, that's the last place I went in the VW in the bus. But yeah, like I mean, that's ideal situation on your motorcycle. I just, you know, for whatever reason, I just don't take it out often. You know.
Yeah. But you do have a calf racer, don't you?
Yeah.
It's,
like it's a 75 Yamaha, 650, and it was a lot different when I first got it, but it's been, you know, all the parts are gone essentially, calf racer handles and rear end and stuff. It's a sweet bike. But yeah, you know, I'm glad you brought it up. I probably should get out there.
No, I'm make you feel guilty, but that's not my intention. But I think, you know, I get that same kind of thing, like meditating as you're doing that action. And on like the last episode, I talked way too much about Robert Persig, who wrote Zen in the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, which is a big influence for me. And it's just the idea that like doing an activity like fully, actually immersing yourself in it, is that form of like, you can sink yourself into it, and somehow you've hit like a Zen state from doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the way I feel about like playing paintball, right? Like I'm just flowing, you know, but the preparation is not, it's completely different than just playing, you know, but yeah, I mean, and I thought that was a really interesting podcast too, and to listen like to a guy that like makes stuff, you know what I mean? Because like that's not really a common trade nowadays in our modern times. Somebody that actually makes things with their hands, right? And I could only imagine how therapeutic that would be, you know, and that's why I tell people. I mean, I don't really have a whole lot of anxiety ever. I think I have my own creative outlets that kind of keep me good, but a lot of people don't. And I always tell them, like, dude, go paint or something, you know, like find a way to release some energy. A lot of people don't have they don't have like real hobbies, right? Real things that they can do to blow off steam or, you know, free up their mind or totally dive in and kind of forget about what's going on.
It seems like we've traded hobbies for distractions.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
And I do that all the time too. Yeah. There's so many times where it's like I love reading, and I'll still just be like, oh, what's on Instagram right now?
Yeah.
Like I don't. It's so hard. But I think that we all struggle with that, and that's okay. Yeah. But yeah, if you can start to get those outlets, like what do you do? What are your creative outlets?
Like I love playing golf.
Really?
Yeah, I'm gonna hopefully try to play here in a little bit after this for the podcast. But yeah, I think golf is it's just an incredible sport. It's incredibly difficult, right? Which I seem to enjoy those kind of things. You have to be super focused, right? I mean, it's the difference between hitting like a professional quality shot versus like the worst shot, your grandma would make on her first swing is very little difference, right? And so because of that, you just have to be like lasered in focus wise. And to me, it's just very appealing. I can take a lot of things for, it's like a microcosm of life. There's so many things I can learn very quickly on the golf course, and I can say this is relatable, right? And that's why I really enjoy competing in paintball too, for a lot of the same reasons. Very difficult to do. There's, it's like I forget which golfer it is. There's a famous golfer. I think it's Gary Player. He says golf is incredibly simple but endlessly complicated, right? And that's true. And I think paintball is very similar in that aspect. Is that it's a very simple game when you talk about it, but like the details, especially on like the professional circuit of what it takes to win, it literally. I mean, you could drive yourself insane. Going through all these details, managing people, different positions, their perspectives, their age, like all kinds of things. So, but for me, like I like that challenge quite a bit. It's exhausting, but I do enjoy it, and I feel like I take away something from it in a positive way.
Do you kind of like come alive under duress? Do you think clearest?
Most people would say that I'm very sharp when shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
Certainly playing paintball, but like that to me, I feel like I'm stressed. I genuinely believe that stress does not hit me very hard. Right. And I think that's by design, though. I think that's because of the things I do to combat that stress. I don't get overwhelmed with things, like I just don't. And that's probably because I practice a lot in, kind of keeping my sanity, being calm, and not run. Like I'll totally tackle something head on if I need to, but a lot of people just freak out or, push it away. And you know what I mean? But that's just not the way I do things. And that being said, I have a lot of friends that deal with anxiety and things like that. I just, I try to suggest things, and it's like those are the things that I think work for me. You know what I mean? But I can't say, it would work for anybody else.
It goes beyond practice too, though. I mean, it's a mindset thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's like,
I completely agree.
If you think stress is helpful, then it will be helpful. If you think that it's detrimental, it'll be detrimental.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, I like the heat of the moment. Like that I really do welcome it.
Yeah. I feel like some of the best but also most exhausting things I ever did were when I was like waiting tables. Like that is the most stressful job I can picture. I think in terms of just like pure incoming stress, where it's like you got to keep track of everything that's going on in this dining room, especially like the place I was like would get really busy, but there are only 2 servers. And so you've got like 10 tables you have to think about, and everybody's coming at a different time. Oh, now there's a baseball team coming in and they need 30 chairs, and you got to go stack that up. And, I feel like in those moments, if you can say like, all right, I'm going to get sharp now because it's starting to get hot in here, as opposed to saying like, I'm going to fall apart now because the pressure's on.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've seen people get sharp and I've seen people fall apart, and for the most part, they're basically just doing whatever they made their mind up to do, like, just like you said, all right, I'm going to fall apart right now, or, hey, I can get sharp and take care of it, So,
is that the edge in paintball, or is that a standard? Do you think most guys who are out there have the ability to take this stressful moment and absorb it as like, that's going to make me sharper? Or do you think that's one of the edges that can push you to be better?
I mean, I think in general, the best guys on the circuit are sharp guys, right? So because paintball's an interesting sport in that it's a physical sport, but we're not talking about like the kind of athletes you see in the NFL, right? So outside of like a couple phenoms athletically, the guys are your kind of average body type, still athletic, still can move around, but we're not talking about phenoms, athletic phenoms. So the separation really is what's this decision making, right? What's going on in the brain, how sharp they are, how smart they are, how fast they react, how fast they can predict something, right? So I'm sure that for me, I would like to think that all the other high-end guys, me and a handful of other guys, are all pretty calm. I know a couple of them that, probably could be a little calmer, but at the same time, like whenever I put the mask on, I consider myself a monster, right? And once it's off, I'm like, kind of zenned out, if you will.
Right.
But yeah, I would say that the separation isn't. I mean, you could definitely make a distinct difference between guys that are just hotheads, right, out there, and you can see the way they play, and you can say that guy's probably a hothead, right? Versus you watch a guy that is always calm, or no matter what's happening out there, right, and it's just kind of doing whatever the situation dictates. Those guys are way more consistent, and they'll be around for a lot longer.
I feel like you just remind. So have you seen Conor McGregor's documentary on Netflix, Notorious?
No, I don't watch it. I really, outside of my phone, I'm not like plugged into like the TV or like websites even that much, So I mean, like my Instagram account, obviously I'm on there, and then a little bit of Facebook, but I don't really even put much on there. But yeah, like I don't watch TV almost ever. I don't really listen to many podcasts outside of paintball stuff.
You just do.
You don't take much in. Yeah, that's true. Like that's a good way to say it. Yeah.
I feel like Andrea, like she was someone who never like would take in things that often.
Yeah.
And I was someone who like I take in so much. Like I read so many books. And watch so many shows. And then we both have balanced each other out to where like we've helped each other like do our opposite.
I've been meaning to take in more stuff more recently in the last several years, but I don't know if it's maybe I just have kind of a weird ADD, but like I do have a hard time like sitting down and like let's say a book for instance or even a movie, like I have to have some sort of weird fascination with it before I'm like really gonna get into it,
What do you? Well, I'm getting way off my original point here. But what do you do then to fill those spaces in time? Is it just there must always be something going on, or do you?
Well, no, that's definitely not true. But I think I just think a lot.
You're comfortable with silence and just
thinking.
Yeah.
I really am. I mean, through every single day, I'm thinking about a lot of things, paintball wise, business wise, whatever. But I may not be, looking at something or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I'm definitely maybe daydreaming, if you will. Just thinking about all kinds of things pretty much all day long. But whenever like playing golf, like when I'm there, I'm like in that. You know what I mean? And I'm trying to get rid of every other thing popping into my head, right?
Yeah.
And I would say that's pretty similar to paintball too. When I'm out there, I'm engulfed in it.
Yeah. That is one of the hardest things for me personally. Like I have a very hard time being in one thing and not at least three things.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's an advantage and sometimes it's really
of course, obviously.
It really can be a detriment sometimes. But anyway, so you made me think of that documentary just because like his whole attitude about fighting has always been like to be that hothead, like to never lose that confidence that he's just going to do everything perfectly.
Yeah.
Until he got his ass kicked and had his first like major loss. And then I feel like came back where he had harnessed that confidence with the same level of like, I believe that I can execute on everything perfectly, and you can't shake that. But there's I don't know, it's just like there's an awareness that it's not going to be sort of like an empty confidence anymore.
Yeah.
It's like now I have to make sure it's backed up.
Yeah. Yeah, so like I'm not big in MMA. I did see his most recent fight where he got that guy like really quickly. I forgot who he fought.
Donald Cerrone.
Yeah. It was to me, I remember watching it and I'm thinking in my head, how has somebody not been knocked out this way before?
Oh yeah, it was like a 5 second fight.
It just looked like how have these guys not thought of this yet? The shoulder.
If anyone hasn't seen this fight, how long was the actual fight? Like 12 seconds
maybe? It was
maybe?
15 seconds
so
maybe.
They just got started and they kind of got close and kind of locked in together like boxing style, and then Conor McGregor just throws his shoulder into Donald Cerrone's face and just knocks him out.
Yeah, it was crazy. And I mean, I remember the very first thought I was thinking is like, all right, I know what it takes to be like at the upper level of a sport, if you will. And I'm thinking in my head, how has this not been seen before?
Yeah.
Because
then what is it for paintball is the next question. Like, what's the thing that no one's ever thought of before, and then you come out on the field or you come with your team and it's just...
I mean,
at any moment it could happen.
The thing about paintball is like there's nothing that's like, it's hard to say what hasn't been thought of, but it's all the variables, like the intangibles that make it so complex. Mm-hmm. There's 5 guys. Each one of those guys could be doing one thing, right? And then you're mixed in with a field layout, right? So, and that's always changing too.
Right.
So we've almost always seen a situation before, but whether or not it was a year ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, right? it's like having a really great memory is really valuable in paintball. But it's hard to say like what's going to be the next thing. I think over the last few years, the biggest thing is that guys are just in better shape. So like guys like me will play every single point in a tournament before now. No questions asked. Whereas like a few years ago, you used to have 2 or 3 lines of 5 guys to play a match. And now it's like, well, we don't have to have an extra 8 guys that aren't going to be as experienced as the top 5 or 6 on our team. And so now those guys are just going every single point. So it makes the level, like the level to compete is very, very difficult now.
Yeah. So your starters can do everything.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you can sink all your resources as a team into those
exactly right.
starters.
Yeah. And so, you know, it can be problematic for like longevity of a team because, you know, I'm 34, so I think I can play pretty well for another 7 or 8 years. I could play into my 40s. But still, like at what point, like right now I get the lion's share of our points played, right? So, you know, whatever, in 5 years when I may or may not be at the tail end of my career, how is somebody going to get the experience that I have if I'm playing every point? Right. So, you know, those are the kind of things that are relevant or discussions that are made and decisions to be made with that kind of stuff. But at the same time, you're still trying to do what's best for your team now,
right?
You know? But yeah, paintball for the most part, nothing hasn't been seen yet. It's just kind of really just pushing the envelope as far as like basic skills, like fitness kind of level of the league. And then I would say that the coaching is the biggest thing that's changed in the last like 10 years, whereas now every team has a dedicated coach, and you need to, because it's like you need an extra set of eyes outside of playing, because as players we're there to do our jobs, right, whichever our coach tells us to do, but at the same time as players we're involved with trying to become better players ourselves, right? And the coach is, you know, he is there to look at what we're doing as a team, what the team we're scouting or the team we're about to play is doing as a team, and how we're going to kind of interact with that, right? What we think they're going to do, what we're going to do, that's his job. And as players, if I was, and that's the reason I brought Ryan on to coach at the time, is like, if I'm trying to be the best player I can be, and I'm trying to manage all my guys and call the plays, like that's all taking away from what I can do as a player, right? And
so that singular focus, that's sort of the advantage.
Exactly. And don't get me wrong, I still don't have singular focus on just being a player. I haven't in at least 8 years, right? But he does a lot of stuff. I mean, definitely stuff I wouldn't be able to do if we didn't have him, right?
Right. So is that the logical next step for you? Is coaching something that you'll look to do at some point?
No. I don't. That, to me, I like to compete. The coaching aspect is, we play a team sport, which is like, as like an ultimate competitor is frustrating enough for me, to be honest with you. Yeah. Because I'm not, I've been a top 3 player for the last 7 or 8 years, and I've only won 5 tournaments in that time. 3 were last year. So, you know, I'm relying on my teammates to kind of chip in as well. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know that coaching is going to, it's hard for me to see into the future like that, but I guess if I'm bored enough, maybe I will want to. And I know how much value I would be able to add to people, but it would just have to make sense for me. But I feel like when I'm done playing paintball, I'm probably just going to play a lot of golf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is golf something you've done for a long time?
No, so the first time no, that's not true. I guess I got a pair of golf clubs or set in when I was like in high school, but I was not into it at all at the time.
Did you play sports in high school?
I played tennis, and then tennis and football in junior high. In my early years of high school, I played tennis, but that was right when I got into paintball. And once I got into paintball, it just consumed my life, you know? So we were traveling. It was a group of us in high school, and their dad would drive us around. He was like our soccer dad, and we were doing tournaments pretty much every weekend, either tournaments out of town or practice out of town. Yeah. So we were gone a lot, and kind of once that hit, dude, I wasn't really interested in tennis anymore. But that being said, I still have I've got some rackets, and we'll play around. And it's funny, you know, because like once you're an adult and you're, you know, physically capable, you can, you know, I would whoop my ass the level I was in high school, and I used
Sure.
to play every day.
Yeah.
But just being smarter and stuff like that in my age. But yeah, so we'll sometimes we'll go and hit around. I haven't played in probably 6 or 8 months, but tennis is a pretty difficult sport as well. I just think at the time I was so involved with paintball, I just wasn't really interested. But anytime I get invited to play tennis now, I'm like, hell yeah, let's go.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm the same way too.
Yeah.
Like Andrew and I play sometimes, and
Oh,
like,
nice. Yeah, yeah.
it's one of my favorite things to do. She's had an injury that she's been dealing with for a little while, so it's like really high intensity stuff she can't go do
Okay,
right
yeah,
now.
yeah.
So I'm like left alone. But
Yeah. No,
but
tennis
I'm
is
also
good.
I also suck at tennis. Like I'm very aware at the level that I'm at, but it's always nice to play with people. I feel like that's the best thing about sports too, is like as long as you're playing with people on your level, it's gonna be a great time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
There's really
for
gonna be
sure.
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Like I don't have to be a professional basketball player to go and have
Yeah, yeah.
just an awesome time
Yeah.
playing basketball with people.
Yeah.
But if I go to the wrong game and like I'm just the dude who can barely dribble, like
Yeah.
it's no good.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, so oh man, I'm not really. Where are we at now?
We're nowhere. We've never been anywhere.
Yeah,
it's
that's
not a
true.
problem. No, but well, let me ask you about Austin, because it's a city I'm fascinated with, and I've gotten to spend just a little bit of time here in our travels because we stayed. I'm trying to think back. We stayed in Fredericksburg in like November, and we were doing some cool stuff out there. And I had come out to Austin for like a day or two, mostly just because like I wanted an excuse to ride my motorcycle through downtown, which
Yeah,
was a
okay.
pretty cool day. And then I mentioned to you that like I went to On It for 2 seconds
Yeah,
to
yeah.
On It headquarters, and it was like Black Friday weekend.
Oh yeah,
I
so
wanna
they have like
say.
a big sale that weekend.
Yeah, but like their team isn't working at all because everybody's
wow.
off for Thanksgiving.
Oh, okay.
And I pulled up and I was just like, oh, I'll take a picture of like the motorcycle next to On It Gym and I'll send that to Andrea because we both love Aubrey Marcus and all
Yeah.
that stuff. And then he just walked out the front door. I just like went over totally. I think I scared him. It's one of my most. It's like one of the favorite things I've ever done was just like the ability to just like ride up to Aubrey Marcus and be like, hey man, you're Aubrey Marcus. But he was like, but like if a motorcyclist just like rolls up next to you in the middle of an abandoned
Yeah.
parking lot and it starts talking to you, he can't have felt good about that.
Yeah,
moment.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
feel kind of bad about that. But he just stepped down as CEO of On It.
Yeah,
like,
I saw that
yesterday.
today. Yeah, so I follow him. I followed him for a few years now, and he's definitely an interesting individual and definitely anti-norm,
Yeah.
if you will, if you guys know who he is. But he started this supplement company years and years ago, and it's kind of blown up apparently. And they have a gym here too. And then yeah, I mean, you would argue he's into alternative medicine quite a bit as well, and alternative lifestyle too.
I think over the course of how I've been following him, he's gone deeper and deeper and weirder and
Yeah,
weirder.
for
And I'm
sure.
into it. I
Yeah.
love it.
No, I
That's
do
the
too.
next
I
level
think
every time.
I think it's for me it's very similar kind of mindset in that he really is totally okay with delving into some questionable subjects and questioning everything, you know. And I appreciate that about him. I don't always agree with what he has to say, but I certainly can appreciate the way his brain works, the way he speaks, right? And the topics he chooses to kind of figure out.
Yeah, I keep bringing up different books, but I won't ask this time, but if you get a chance to read his book, On the Day on Your Life, that book genuinely changed my life.
Dang.
Because it taught me, I think the biggest component of it was nutrition.
Yeah.
But basically what he does in that book is he lays out like a perfect day from like what you should do on waking up and then all the science behind like what would support that all the way through the day, when you should be eating what, like even how to work better and everything just to have a perfect day.
Dang.
And the nutrition stuff in that book really like after I read that book, I was like, okay, I was off sugar. I cook everything from scratch now.
Yeah.
Like that's
Dang, good for you.
become a huge thing. That would be impossible if I lived here, by the way, because there's too much good food around.
There's a lot of good food.
It's easy like with the lifestyle we have in the RV, because it's like I don't have to work out different restaurants where I'm going. It's just like, okay, I know what I make.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that'd be really hard living here.
So, and I don't think there's anything on my page about this, but I actually was vegan for a full year.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So 2018, I was vegan almost the entirety of the year, and I was vegetarian for the last like 6 months of 2017.
Was it an ethical thing, or did it just agree with you
So
and made you feel better?
it was a little bit of both.
Yeah.
You know, I'd already been consciously thinking about more of a plant-based diet, and then this guy that I'm really pretty I speak really highly of. He's a former professional paintball player, and he is the best ever. And I really can't see anybody ever taking that crown from him, to be honest with you. But he doesn't play anymore. But he's a good friend of mine, and he's vegan now, or at least he practices vegan. I'm sure he eats butter or something every once in a while. But yeah. But he had made a post on Instagram, and it just hit me like a train, you know. And I said, I literally read it, and I said, wow, I'm gonna not eat meat for the rest of this week. And then
I think that's cool.
Yeah,
I think that's cool. I've never shied away from the ability to have something completely change my mind and then act on it immediately.
Yeah.
Like,
And
cool.
that being said, like at that moment in time, I was already eating very healthy. At that point in time, I was the best shape of my life. And I was always real conscious about what I put in my body. You know, like I was making a lot of meals from scratch. I would buy grass-fed beef. I would buy, wild fish, right? All that whole thing. And then I did that, and I did it for a while. It was like 18 months combined. And then ultimately with the lifestyle and the schedule I had, it's just a lot to do. And I was going to the grocery store 3 times a week, you know what I mean? So it got to the point where the convenience was outweighing, my personal thoughts on it. That being said, ever since I stopped, I've always said I'm gonna do it again. You know what I mean? It just hasn't worked for me yet.
I think it's hard because you have to pick. You actually have to pick.
Yeah.
There's not quite a viable way to be so into your like nutrition and to be able to have all of your time. Yeah. Not at the moment. I see things coming up like HelloFresh and Purple Carrot and a couple other like food services, but it just depends on how much you have kind of scheduled for yourself outside of cooking, because I cook a lot. A lot of my hours in the week go to that.
So my lifestyle right now is very much kind of, I do whatever I want when I want to. Yeah. So because of that, I don't really cook here very much, and I know how to cook pretty well. I can cook a lot of different things, and for a large part of my adult life, I've cooked most of my meals. But more recently, and this is kind of a trend in what society, but like eating is almost a form of entertainment now, that's a very real thing.
It's a huge social part of it.
Yeah. Now, like HelloFresh and stuff like that, like I always feel like I feel weird having something delivered to me that I can, like that's just not my thing.
My issue with it is that like to have the same stuff that you could get somewhere else much easier, they're going to send you like 20 prepackaged things with 20 pieces of plastic and a huge box constantly.
It's very wasteful. Yeah. It's not really my thing.
The one thing I'll say though is that I don't think it'd be doable for me if I had to go to the grocery store quite that often. But luckily, right as I started getting into this is when like all the Kroger stores and also Walmart started doing free pickup.
Okay, so
just get on the app and go get the good food and just go pick it up. Yeah. So that was, I think, a way to make it work. Yeah. But it's just not for everybody. And that's the thing too. It's like my family will talk to me about like different health things, and my dad's starting to get into some of this stuff. I made him read Aubrey Marcus's book, and so I'm really happy for him. And I've like taught my family how to make sourdough and things like that.
Oh, nice.
Which is one of my favorite things. Yeah. But I recognize at the same time when they ask me these things, it's like, it's not my job to lecture you about food. Like, if you want to go have a soda, go have a soda.
Correct.
Like, I just think everybody needs to be doing what works for them. And I know that I have a huge interest in food and in exercise. So like, that's what I'm going to spend a lot of time doing. Yeah. And as long as you can embrace that.
Yeah. So whenever I went vegetarian, it was kind of funny because my sisters and my mom, and again, God bless them, but, they were very much like, what are you doing? This is really dumb. Whatever. Kind of making fun of me, basically, right? And that's that's their perspective, and I'm okay with being the brunt of their jokes. But my dad...
Are you the youngest?
No, I'm the oldest.
You're the oldest?
Yeah.
Oh, see, I was going to say if you're the youngest, you'd be very comfortable with it. But
It's just, being the oldest, and I'm the only boy, so, for the most part, we grew up a middle-class family, so it's not... I would say I was beyond privileged, never had a need, you know what I mean? Yep. But if their want came, their want was always before mine, right? So I was used to them kind of whatever, everything they wanted is going to happen. So, but whenever I went vegetarian, my dad, he would start eating vegetarian with me. And of course now he was taking some of the brunt of the joke too. They'd always make fun of him. Oh, you only eat vegetarian when Archie's around or whatever, but it's kind of funny. But yeah, he's, we obviously we work together. I see him pretty much 5 days a week, outside of when I'm not traveling, or outside of when I'm traveling. But yeah, we kind of think in a similar way, and he's always kind of interested in the kind of the new crazy stuff, if you will, that I'm kind of trying out and doing. So it is kind of neat. So he's always kind of bouncing ideas with me too.
Right. I'm super jealous. I don't get to see my dad at all. It sucks.
Yeah. My dad's he's an interesting guy, and self-made man. He started basically, and probably, I mean, poor, if you will. Both my parents grew up in the Valley in definitely a lower level income status. And my dad's done quite well for himself. And now obviously we work together, and I would say we're mildly successful, but yeah, he's done really, really great, and real sharp dude, especially for his age. I think he's 63 now, and he's very much about his wits still. And granted, he does things, in my opinion, that help him stay sharp too. He does crosswords like every single day, and Sudoku, and those little things. Like for him, I know what they mean to him, but to me, I can see that he's still super, super sharp. I talk to him about complicated things all the time, and he's always got very good insight on and perspective on them.
Yeah. I think about that a lot. Like, do I need to start taking up Sudoku to not whatever? Because they say it'll stop Alzheimer's. And all sorts of things.
I don't necessarily know that it's Sudoku, but it's just something, right?
I feel like finding more than that, what it is like a belief that you are sharp.
Yeah,
it's like I believe going into old age that I'm going to still have it all.
I believe that too. I mean, I know I'm about to be 34, but like, I genuinely, I believe that I'm one of the sharpest people I know, and it's going to be hard for somebody to prove me otherwise, and I don't know if that's like just a self-fulfilling prophecy or what, but,
well, I don't think that it's not about just, is it? Cause it's just like all this talk with another weird health thing is like, I'm super into the idea of like placebos as actual medicine. So like the things that you actually buy into for yourself actually totally make a difference. And there's a huge connection there.
Yeah.
And I've just started learning a whole bunch of new things. I found Dr. Andrew Weil, who's this really cool, I don't know exactly what his label is, but he's like more like a naturopathic style doctor out in Tucson, Arizona, has been writing about like natural health since the 70s.
Oh,
he was
wow.
the godfather.
So he's way early.
Yeah, he's like the first to talk about the things that are becoming popular now. But anyway, the idea is that like there's all sorts of times where we've seen that if people like change what they believe about something, that it completely alters how they react to that. Like people can think their way out of allergies to things.
Anything, yeah.
Like for real, or he even has one where he talks about like sunburn was something that he's able to like mentally get past. I think that's crazy. I understand it's like totally out there.
Yeah.
But it's the same, I think, with aging or with any of the things you and I are talking about, where it's like,
if there's one thing I know, belief is a powerful thing.
Yeah.
It's very potent.
It is.
And I know, a lot of the things that happen, to a lot of people would think are unbelievable, but it's when you are crazy enough to believe it, like it just might pan out that way,
Is that part of your competitive mindset? So you mentioned that you travel, in your van. What's the name for the
It's
van?
a Westfalia. It's a Volkswagen Westfalia.
I never have heard that name.
But you know
before.
what? You know,
but I know
exactly the bus I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah,
it's just
totally.
That old hippie bus.
Scooby Doo.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
That's what I think of.
Yeah,
obviously, it's
that's it. Yeah.
But when you'll take that out before various competitions or tournaments and kind of like get centered with yourself. And is that a part of it? Is like starting to visualize and get in the mindset of like the competitive spirit or whatever it is?
I don't consciously think about what I'm going to think whenever I'm out there. I just really want to just kind of be away from distraction, right? And so that the days they'll be long, but there's just a lot of time for thought, whether it's looking at a butterfly, shutter its wings, or walk through a garden out in this tiny little mini town, on the way to, Fredericksburg or whatever, or it's going up to Enchanted Rock and just sitting up there for a couple hours.
That place was sweet.
Yeah, it's badass.
I didn't have a good day where I could have just sat there, but there was one night when I just posted this on Instagram actually, but it was a few months ago, but Andrew wanted to do some astrophotography and wait for the stars to come out. And we just like laid on this rock for like several hours just waiting for the stars to come out.
So you were up there when it was when at night?
Yeah.
So I have yet to do that. Actually, I've only been during the day. It was super
cool. And then, it was funny too because people were walking by and pitch black. They've got like their flashlights. If people will still walk up to the top at like 10, 11 p.m.
Yeah.
But we didn't have any lights on because we're just like sitting there. And I was like standing on a rock at one point, and this group of like really giggly girls was going by, and they got so freaked out because they saw me like move.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Are you a person?" I definitely thought about saying like, "No, I'm not a human being."
Yeah.
Like, or whatever.
Yeah. So like, and honestly, most of the time I take those trips, I don't have an agenda. It's just like, all right, I'm leaving today, Friday at noon or whatever, and I'll come back on Sunday night, and I don't know, wherever I find myself, I'll be, and I don't book any reservations as far as where I'm gonna park and whatnot, and I just kind of just float around basically.
That's pretty.
Sometimes I'll have a friend come with me, and sometimes I'm alone.
Yeah.
But
it's a little easier in a van too to do it without having to book and plan.
Yeah, true.
I can't really do that with the RV.
Where did you stay when you were? Were you in the RV when you were in Fredericksburg?
Yeah.
Where'd you park it?
There's a park just south of town that we stayed at.
Is it the airport field or that the airfield? It's like a parking lot.
No, it's like a full RV park.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about then.
Because I like a good like solid RV park. We get electricity and hookups, and with all the cooking, like I kind of need to be able to have running water.
That makes sense. Yeah, when I'm out there, it's I don't have hookups to the
exactly.
Bus,
you don't have to worry about that kind of thing. And
it's just I got to find a place to park essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't, like I said, I don't have an agenda. I don't think about anything in particular. I just really kind of want to just enjoy my time without having to worry or really do anything.
Yeah.
So it's just, I'm not really on my phone very much at all while I'm out there. Maybe I'll take a few pictures, but that's pretty sporadic too. Pretty much just kind of going where the wind takes me. And yeah, if I've got a good hike to do or if there's a body of water to jump in, great. But yeah, for the most part, it's just as relaxing and nothing planned, nothing to do. Just breathing, really.
Yeah, getting harder and harder to do that.
Yeah, for sure. That's why I feel like whenever I do those, it's like such a stark contrast to what a normal day is for your average, whatever person. But yeah, those definitely leave me pretty fulfilled. And before World Cup last year, me and my buddies, we won a tournament in Amsterdam. So I play for a different team in Europe than I do for here in the States.
Oh, really? Are the seasons different at all, or is it just?
It's during the same. Yeah, it's the same league, but they have the U.S. events and then the European events. So they never conflict with each other, right? And so last year I was playing with a group of guys. Most of them are in California. So before World Cup, we won a tournament in Amsterdam. We're flying back, and me and two of the other guys were toying around the idea about going to Yosemite. So I was like, dude, let's just do it right before World Cup. And we went out there, and it was just awesome. One of the best trips I've ever had. Yeah. And I mean, I've been in a lot of great places and stuff, but that was a special weekend. I hadn't been before, and it was just awesome. We had a really, really incredible time, and I'll probably talk about that trip for the next decade pretty easily.
Well, it's kind of amazing too because the what's the word I'm looking for? The expectations of that kind of thing are like just super low. Yeah. It's just like there's only one thing to do, like let's go to Yosemite.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
But somehow because the expectations are so low and because it's so separate from what we do on a day-to-day basis, it becomes something that you talk about for so long. And I feel like that's, for me, like that's travel in general.
Yeah.
Like that's the switch to living on the road made that really concrete, where it's like now kind of I get the advantage of being like every place I go has the opportunity to be the thing I'll talk about forever.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. Like I definitely have sensed this like fix as far as me being here in Austin, right? My family's here, my work is here, and I travel a lot because of paintball, and I travel a lot outside of that too. But there is a serious fascination with me taking that van and being gone for 3 months or 6 months, and if it weren't for paintball, like my paintball schedule, I would have probably already done it.
Right.
But I'm still very much connected to paintball, at least in my heart, to where I know I can't do that yet, But I do believe that when I stop playing paintball, I will be gone for a while, probably playing a lot of golf and driving around in that van wherever it takes me.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of rare that like the travel is like full-time travel is an advantage as opposed to a disadvantage.
Yeah.
To go over things like for us, when we were living in Denver, it was like we were on flights and staying at hotels, traveling to our clients about half the time, like 50% of the time we were gone. And so now to where we can actually drive around to those clients, it's just made everything so much more simple. So like I don't have to worry about that flight and that hotel. It's like you don't have to put your life on pause for that whole week while you're traveling. You literally just have to do it for a second when you go, and like for us, like when we go and do a shoot. But I know that for everybody else, things are anchored places. Paintball's your team is anchored in one spot.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
There's no way that you can have an advantage in doing that.
Yeah, there's logistics involved with that. So, but yes, I'm definitely really fascinated with the idea of just being gone for a while in that van. You know, and yeah, like you said, it's such a, like when we got to Yosemite, I mean, I just remember right when we got into the park and we're coming through this tunnel and you get through and you just see, you know, like Half Dome the first time, and you're just like, wow, like it's so magnificent. It's like you can't even explain it. You know what I mean? But like immediately you feel how kind of simple and kind of stupid everything else is, to be honest with you. Like, yeah, like what is the real, you know, meaning of existence when you look? It's just like, yeah, you realize how like kind of dumb and stupid your normal day is, really, to be honest with you. You know, the day-to-day stuff is just like, does it really make sense? You know, I don't. Yeah, it's just interesting.
To throw it to another one of my favorite writers. Remember that part where I just read books a lot? Because I just always have to have something going. So I've like almost always got an audiobook going. Yeah. And even when I like ride my motorcycle, like it's audiobook.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I can't, like that silence wouldn't actually quite get me to the zone. Anyway, it's like, I think in Brave New World specifically is when Aldous Huxley's talking about the idea of like, we need to, as they're designing this really dystopian society, the idea is like to keep people away from nature, to keep people away from that freedom of nature, because everything becomes way too clear when you're in nature. Yeah. And so as long as we can stay contained in cities, surrounded by people all the time, there's no way to break that thought pattern. There's no way to see that there's anything else. Yeah. And there's no way to I think it's like you said, like it's not quite like the question of meaning of life. It's more like just understanding your own existence in the world. It's just like whether or not there's a meaning to it. It's like, I get what it is. Yeah, for sure. It's so much easier to do in nature.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, you know, it's funny because these van trips really only started for me a few years ago. You know, there was a girl I was dating at the time. We had the van and she was like, we should take it out. And I did not realize how much of an impact that one trip would be. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And that was in 2017. And since then, like, my life has gone, I mean, I wouldn't say I've changed as a person a lot. However, I have a much bigger appreciation for a lot of the things that I do regularly now that I would have never honestly thought about much before then.
Yeah. Because you're in the hustle and bustle of Austin.
Oh, yeah.
All the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Assaulted by that. And it's the same thing. It's like we were talking about earlier, like distractions versus like actually engaging in something.
Yeah, exactly. So, so like I said, now, I mean, I'm taking, between 7 and 8 trips a year with that thing, whereas back then it was one. You know, it started everything.
Yeah. And then you've also got travel for paintball, of course, which I'm sure lends itself to that as well. Like, especially when you're traveling Europe, what an opportunity to see those types of things.
It is. So like the thing about it is like, because I'm gone so much already, like last year I was like 86,000 miles. Right. So like some of these trips I take a few days and stay. Sometimes I'm like, all right, I'm getting there and I'm pretty much coming right back. Yeah. You know what I mean? But in between, you know, those days we're there, we do have a day or two where we get to go explore and sometimes party and whatever and check out places. So it's not like just a full on vacation, right? You know what I mean? We're there to do.
Yeah, you're there to work.
We're there to work. You know. So, but that being said, obviously I've seen a lot of really, really great places.
What's the trip that just got canceled? Where were you supposed to?
I was going to Valencia, Spain.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which I haven't been to before. Not to Valencia, at least. We've been to. Actually, the last time I went to Spain. Oh no! We've been to Barcelona a couple years now. In the last few years, but there was a tournament. It used to be in Malaga Beach, which is like a southern coast in Spain, and that one was when the you might remember this, but the volcano in like Ireland or Green. I think maybe it was Ireland or Iceland. Erupted, and they were I was in Europe when that thing happened. Yeah, exactly. And they were thinking this was going to halt, you know, European travel for 100 years or whatever. And at the time, like half my buddies, all the flights coming back home got canceled except for ones through Madrid, which I just happened to have mine through Madrid, so I was lucky. But some of my friends were stuck there for a week.
Yeah, we'll talk about like another example of something getting blown way out of proportion.
Yeah, exactly. A week later, there was
canceled.
no problem at all.
Yeah, and now you don't get to go because all the European flights are suspended.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's insane now. And then even just today, like all the NBA and NHL, and I was gonna go to this golf tournament in Austin here in a couple weeks, and now they announced that there will be no fans at any of these tournaments. So kind of crazy.
It is. It's kind of freaky. I feel like
I am not freaked out about the virus. I'm more freaked out about people's reaction.
I think so too.
And at this point, with halting European travel, people feeling like they can't have an event, I'm like, man, that's kind of weird. That's cause for alarm.
Well, it's because it's like a PR nightmare if you do.
Yeah, correct. That's
like
true.
For whatever reason, people are like, oh, well, if we have this event, then someone's going to die, and then it's going to be our fault.
Yeah.
But that hasn't been the case before through any of these different like virus scares.
Yeah, I mean, but think about it. I mean, how many of these scares have we had? I mean, there was like Ebola,
That's probably
SARS,
the most recent one I can think of.
Swine flu. What was the one?
I got
first
swine
time
flu.
I went. Oh, did you?
Yeah, I actually got that one.
No.
I was in Disney World at the time.
Oh wow.
As a kid.
What was the one where there's like 2000 where you couldn't eat meat in Mad Cow?
Mad Cow.
Yeah, I was in Ireland when that was going on.
Right. But so I saw some cool stats this morning that some celebrity posted on Instagram something about like those different epidemics and how many people were affected or died from those. And the stats like for coronavirus are roughly the same as any of those.
Yeah.
But then there was a stat about like sort of mentions in the media of each of those different things. Ebola, SARS, so small.
Yeah.
Coronavirus, billions.
It's insane.
Yeah, we're just.
Yeah, and I one of these outlets I follow on Instagram, and I listen. I don't follow or read up a lot of this stuff, but I like to see like kind of alternative news in my space so that I'm just not.
Well, it's like you said, you'd like to question everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I like to see that kind of stuff, and so one of the guys that I followed, he posted something about how this is really just a governmental farce to control us. Because if you think about it, we've given the government all the control in the world over the speculation of a virus. I mean, has it affected you? And now everything is events. They might be mandating medicine, all these things we are giving control away,
Yeah.
So whether or not that's the reality or not, it's an interesting thought.
No, I think you and I think the same about that.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I don't love having more and more of my freedoms taken away. That's really unfortunate. But I actually use them. And I think that's the difference is that like a lot of people have gotten to a place where they don't really use their various freedoms to choose things for their lives and they just sort of go with the flow.
I would definitely agree with you on that.
And so it's not quite as important when they start getting taken away.
Yeah, correct.
There's nothing to be mad about because it's like, that's how you
it's for your safety.
For your safety. Everybody listen up.
Yeah.
Buy toilet paper. Which is great because the whole they had to freeze the stock exchange. It's like if they have like a 7% dip, they have to freeze it for 15 minutes because otherwise there's just so much panic that speculation actually kicks in and it's like we could plunge ourselves into another depression.
Isn't that insane? Yeah. I haven't read up enough about this toilet paper thing. I just keep seeing memes and stuff about it, which is hilarious. But I mean, I've got toilet paper in my bathroom.
Right.
There's some down here. I was wondering if at my office, our building, if people were going to start stealing our toilet paper there. But I have seen pictures of just entire shelves just emptied.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny.
Maybe this is the toilet paper industry then is doing incredibly well. So is the hand sanitizer industry, who marked up their products by like 3 times. And
I heard Pureol's going for like $300 a gallon on eBay.
That's crazy.
Isn't that insane?
Come on. They haven't even determined if it fights this virus.
Yeah. I
think it's supposed to be soap is the only thing that's supposed to help.
Yeah.
Which you don't even need antibacterial soap. But anyway, oh my gosh. I even feel bad because unfortunately on this podcast and the other one I do about marketing, now I'm the media talking about it. I'm a part of the problem. But it's so hard because when you're just experiencing this, it's like this crazy thing is happening. How can I not talk about it?
Do you know what's going on in Italy?
They supposedly locked down the whole country. And
and so I have a friend,
all on lockdown.
Not someone I'm real close to, but I have a friend that's currently living in Italy, which I haven't talked to her or reached out to her yet, but I'm curious. I mean, it obviously, and I saw it today. I was looking at like WHO's information. World Health Organization, and I think it's like 10% of all diagnoses have happened in Italy at this point. Like such a tiny little spot on the map, and it's not obviously not next to China.
Yeah.
But for some reason in Italy versus the rest of Europe, it's just like tenfold.
There's gotta be something there.
Yeah. So I don't know. Kind of interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. It's getting weird out there, people. It really is. And it's affecting Austin, too. I mean, I know a lot of people rely on South by Southwest as a huge...
Yeah.
That's where they work. That's where they can pitch their
I
products.
cannot imagine how many bar owners were planning on padding their pockets, this week.
Or just staying afloat.
Yeah, and staying afloat, but also like the bartenders and the everybody that works in that industry, too. Like I have a ton of friends in the bar industry. So when I'm in town, I'll go hang out with them or whatever. And, what I mean? I don't really drink a ton, but... I can enjoy going out on the weekend and seeing my friends and stuff like that. And, I actually prefer going out during the week when they're not working,
Yep.
But yeah, like all those people are looking to make a lot of a good coin this week. You know? So definitely a shame. And then also like think about the people working at all these arenas and like, AT&T, NBA, arena, stuff like that. Like that's all, it's definitely, real in the sense that it's hitting people in their pocketbook.
It's sort of that moment where it's real if we make it real.
Yeah.
And
right now we're making
it very, very real, as if this is something we'll all get. And I also I do try to be sensitive because it's like I recognize that this does affect. This could kill someone, and it's not me.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm not in the demographic for it, but it could kill someone. But are we really? Is the response to it appropriate? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, I'm sure in a year's time we'll know.
We'll know some things about what happened.
Yeah, for sure.
That's crazy too but every day I guess we're living in whatever the next thing is that in a year we'll actually understand what happened.
Yeah, that's true.
Live in history, man. We got weird on this. Went to a weird place. Because we're just semi-related to Austin and then international travel.
It's hard to not. I mean, that's what's very relevant, right? It's on everything right now. Just like you were saying, it's covered by everybody. Now you're covering it.
I'm covering it.
It's just, I mean, like I said, I'm not traveling in the next 2 weeks because of it. It's just, it's affecting a lot of things. So
will any paintball events shut down? You mentioned one already did, maybe. One
of them in Spain got postponed. So, and granted, I'm talking to all these guys in Vegas, right? And they're like, so we might postpone this event. And really, it's only postponed because they're not sure if the government will show up the day of and say, hey, you can't do this.
Sure.
So it's like, what do you want? Everybody to travel there and get there and then the government shut it down? Sure. Or is it better to just say, hey, look, let's just push this back 6 months and hopefully it's, whatever. Yeah. But like we have an event here in Austin in 6 weeks. I would be very surprised if that happens at this point. Do I want it to? Hell yeah. We haven't had a tournament here in like 10 years. I'm sorry. We used to have one in Dallas, but we haven't had one in Austin in like 13 years. So I was really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I can't see it happening.
Right.
But, if they're closing South by, all these other events are closed. Frank Irwin's done. Like, I just.
Austin Mayor's putting a lot of pressure on it.
Yeah.
Before I wrap us though, because I try to do this with every guest, I want to know kind of, we've talked about the sad parts of coronavirus, which is fun. But I want to know the upside of Austin. Because for each of these places I go, I think my favorite thing is getting to hear from someone who actually lives there and gets to experience on a daily basis, like what are the just amazing things about this place. So what do you love about living here? You've been here your whole life. There's a reason for that. There's a reason your family's stuck around.
Yeah. So and also like being able to see everything that I've seen, like I definitely have other views, and I've been to other amazing places, right? And I choose to stay here, But in general, I think for the most part, people are nice here. People are attractive here. The city is a great place. It's a pretty small city. It's almost kind of intimate, and I like that it's a fit city. I like that there's a lot of stuff you can do outdoors, whether it's the trails or the boardwalk or getting on the lake.
Got some of the best weather that makes that possible.
Yeah, the weather for the most part is pretty great. I mean, obviously in the summer it can be pretty hot, but that's a relative term. And our winters are awesome. I've been playing golf pretty much all winter long. There's not a whole. I mean, and every time I post a picture of me doing that, I get everybody from the north is like, I'm jealous. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that's the way I see it. I mean, it's probably not as nice as California weather, but we have it pretty good here. And I also like that it's a transplant city because you pretty much can meet somebody from anywhere in the world just by walking down the street here.
Yeah.
You know, which I think is kind of unique. Like, I'm considered a unicorn in this town, right? Because I was born here.
Yep.
Right. It's that much of a transplant city. So when I say that, like, oh, where are you from? I'm from here. Wait, what? No way. No,
Yeah.
That's not. No way. Like, yeah.
Who's from here?
Yeah. So I think that's one of the unique things too. So it kind of adds. I think it adds kind of to the diversity of the city. But yeah, the weather, the people, a little bit of Southern hospitality still, and there's a lot of attractive people. So it's a good place to be.
And a pretty kick-ass paintball team.
Yeah, that's a good thing
San
too.
Antonio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the food.
The food,
The food is killer. Yeah.
Well, I think
I'm a foodie for sure.
I always try to get everybody's opinion of the best because I know that it's so contentious in Texas, the best barbecue spot.
Have you been to the Salt Lick?
That's the one I've heard of, but no, I haven't been.
So I grew up like 10 miles from there. It was right down the street. And before the Food Network was a thing, you know, like this place was a hole in the wall.
Yeah.
It was tiny. And it was like all you could eat was like $5, you know? And to see it now, it's insane.
Lines around the corner type
Yeah,
stuff.
you go on a Friday night and you come over this hill and there's just a parking lot with hundreds of cars.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know how many cars are in that parking lot, but it might be 1,000 cars.
Yeah.
You know, it's huge. Bring your own alcohol. They've got live music and it's a feast. It's fun. And, you know, for a long time, our field that's in San Antonio used to be in San Marcos, so a little bit closer.
Okay.
When teams would come down to practices, we would go and take them out there.
Yeah.
And they always just loved it.
Yeah.
It's a really cool spot. I don't think that it's as good as it used to be. And I think because of the amount of volume they're doing, right? So it's not a small scale by,
Yeah.
I mean,
At
whenever I was
scale,
going there
it's
as a
gonna
kid,
change.
the scale it's at now, I mean, there's no way it could stay the same.
Right.
You know what I mean? But it is still really good. And for the most part, they're really known for their barbecue sauce.
Okay.
And that is unchanged.
Okay.
But yeah, that place it's a cool spot. But there's in general, you know, it's like you can't keep a something like that a secret for very long, you know. So like, there's good barbecue all over town now. But that place, it's a special place for sure.
Cool. Austin, everybody, get here. Maybe check it out. Anything else that you'd like to share? It's a fairly open platform of a podcast. Anything else you were hoping to talk about?
No, I mean, not really. I would, I think we touched on a lot of different things, but I would recommend anybody that's, you know, middle aged to find and get a hobby.
Yeah.
You know,
I think
dive
that's a
into
cool thing we kind of worked out on this one.
Yeah. I mean, to have that be the message that came out of that, I was kind of holding on to that a little bit.
Yeah, me too.
But yeah, I would really genuinely recommend that to everybody.
Find something you're passionate about. Get
Yeah.
into it. It can be something that you do at a professional level, like yourself, where you've got that love for paintball.
Yeah.
and
That
it's-
being said, like, I've said this for a long time. Even if I wasn't getting paid to play paintball, I would probably be still playing paintball because I really do enjoy it that much.
Right.
You know, that's my thing on my. If you didn't get that hashtag, that's on almost all my posts. It's just do what you love.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I say it all the time. You know what I mean? Like I enjoy doing what I love. So whatever that is, you know, go explore some hobbies and figure it out, and maybe you'll back end into it.
Yep. Nice. Where can people find you? Instagram, what's your handle?
It's at kid_arch. That's a nickname I was given when I was 15 years old or whatever, playing paintball, and it just whatever fit.
Just stuck.
Yeah.
Anywhere else you want people to come find you? Anything else you got to promote?
Not really. If you're interested in a co-working space in Austin, it's Zilker Spot is the one that I'm a partner of. We've got a few open spots right now, not many, but it's a kind of it's different than WeWork in that we're more of like kind of a boutique style. It's a lot smaller, but by any means, if somebody's out there needing a space, get at me.
I was gonna say next time I'm in Austin and I'm looking for other podcast guests,
Yeah.
I'm gonna hit you up and be like, hey, you got a space I could record?
Yeah, so we have a conference room, but it's not like I felt like here was a better place for this, you know.
I always like a casual spot, and I like to be in someone's space. Like I get a sense of who they are and what they're about. I think, and I also think people are more comfortable in their own space.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, like they share things. People get nervous when it's not somewhere they've been before.
So like I would have liked to be in our main room, right? But I just obviously we can't do this with everybody else there. So
what's the main room? Oh, at the co-working
at the co-working space. Yeah, because that's a real serene. I think awesome.
I still haven't decided if I can do that or not. Maybe a podcast listener can tell me if I could be at a coffee shop or something, and it would bother you to hear the espresso machine going every few minutes. I do like a nice quiet space when I can. Although on Oliver's podcast, when you listen to, we were at his shop and we just had the door open because it was so gorgeous out.
Yeah, I heard that. That was. I thought that was cool, to be honest with you, but it wasn't distracting by any means. So.
Yeah. Well, good. Appreciate that. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. I'm gonna take a photo before I head out of here so you all can see this space. And follow me on Instagram to find out what's going on with the podcast. It is, as always, at T Hickson Life, and I am really working on upping my Twitter game. I came back to Twitter after many, many years of stopping using it because I think it's a good tool for me to help connect with people who are going to be where I'm at on the road. So if you have an interest in recommending someone for the podcast or being on the podcast, find me on Twitter at T Hickson Life as well, and holler at me. I'll kind of let people know where I'm going from there. Thank you, Archie, for being here. Appreciate it. It's been a great episode. And thanks everybody for listening. From Austin to you, we will see you on the next episode.